What's up everyone? Welcome to the stream. My name is David Sinai and I beat Lost Odyssey last night. So what am I doing today, you might ask? I am going to jump back into the game, load my save, and read a bunch of the 1,000 Years of Dreams stories. We missed like 7 or something, so this is going to be a gameplay filled stream. It's not going to be a gameplay filled stream, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be good. I hope it's going to be good. Hey Shonen, how are you doing? I also have news for all of you watching. Hashtag the dream stream. That is true. I hope it's going to, I hope they're good, but they're not too long. I hope my voice does not give out, because it's going to be a lot of reading. But hey, I mentioned if you guys would like me to have some emotes on the channel. So if you guys want to get some extra emotes just for this channel, because they're free, they're not from Twitch, they're from a plugin, you can. I selected my 25 favorite emotes from FrankerFaceZ, and you guys can now use them in chat if you want. If you install FrankerFaceZ, you can use the emotes that I got. And hey, it's a great thing. It always tells you the uptime, tells you a bunch of stuff extra. It's like better Twitch, but I think the emotes are easier to handle. So if you guys want to check it out, please do so. I'll be right back because I forgot my water and I'm going to need a lot of water today. I would show the emotes on chat, but they will only appear if you already have the plugin. So you just have to Google FFZ or FrankerFaceZ. I can drop the link in the chat. I just have to look it up myself. FFZ. I did it for other streams and it was really fun. So I thought, why not? If you want to, just you only have to install. You get chat like previous chat, I think, when you jump in, which is also cool. If you have to refresh or something, and yeah, you get a lot of new options. Dark Twitch, which is great for my eyes. Yeah, gotta keep hydrated. That is true. How are you doing, Shonen? Are you feeling better? Is the flu gone? I haven't tested the FrankerFaceZ emotes in this chat so far. Yay, they work. Doing well, still sick. It's been a weird one. Felt better, but then I got worse. You probably pushed your luck and went out, I don't know. Yeah, those things can be very persistent. You gotta really isolate yourself. So yeah, I will post like a picture of them later on on all the info that's below the stream. But I got a wrecked emote type, a baka, some funny face, some funny anime faces, yes or no pillows, a dodge, because I love the dodge. 8 out of 10, of course, an air horn, the Team Getty's Pure One, which went away and kind of funny, a you died, objection, a shrug. I think it was a cool batch of emotes to get. But hey, we're not here for emote discussion, so let's jump into the first one, right? I think this is the next one. I know we did the Bright Rain, which was the boy that kept looking at the bombings or the fighting on the island that he was always watching across the sea. I don't remember the ranking of lives, so I think this is the next one. If it's not, I'll just drop out. Garbage truck on fire, as always. I'll just drop out and do the next one. So yeah, let's jump in. The ranking of lives. I don't even know where my... The terrible... wait. A terrible epidemic is ravaging the kingdom. The onset of the disease is sudden. Due to genetic or perhaps hormonal factors, it strikes only males. The victim experiences a high fever, a violent headache, and often a swift death. Yeah, this is new. The disease does have two hopeful aspects. First of all, once an individual survives it, he need not fear catching it again. From then on, he has immunity. Secondly, an extremely effective medicine exists. If used preventatively or in the initial stages of the disease, the drug, a tablet made primarily from a plant that grows in the mountains, almost always results in a cure. Does this mean people can relax and that there is no need to worry? This isn't going to be a good one, I can already tell. Yeah. I will warn you when it's the one that my guide explicitly said, this one is a lot darker than all the other ones. And I was like, what? Could it get darker? Unfortunately not. For an ironic twist of fate is something that life tends to thrust upon people all too often. The high-altitude plant used to make the medicine that is so effective in prevention and early cure is extremely rare, verging on extinction. In other words, there is not enough medicine for all the kingdom's subjects, only for certain people. "Do you see what I mean?" asks Doc, a quiet man on patrol in the capital's marketplace with his fellow military policeman, Kane. Sending his sharp gaze down one alley after another, came a response. "You're saying they rank people to decide who gets the medicine?" "Exactly," says Doc. "In deciding the rank order, they brand us as either subjects indispensable to the nation or other subjects. Capital military policemen will receive their medicine relatively early, which demonstrates their ranking as subjects indispensable to the nation." "I guess it makes sense," Doc goes on. "If all of us were to keel over, order in the capital would break down like nothing. We always have to be the picture of health as we patrol the city, right, Kane? For the sake of the homeland, as they say." "I suppose so. First the royal family gets the medicine, then the royal guards. Third come the politicians, and then the financiers who run the country's economy. The police and firemen, doctors, and finally us, the capital military police. There's not enough to give it to just anybody." Doc all but spits out those final words, and he asks, "What do you think, Kane? Ordinary subjects are people too. Is it okay to rank them like that?" In theory, Kane should be able to reply without hesitation. That, of course, it is not okay. But realistically speaking, he says, there's no way around it. He averts his gaze from Doc's as he hears himself saying these words. "No way around it, huh?" he mutters with obvious distaste. "Maybe you're right. Maybe there is no way around it." He sounds as if he's trying to convince himself. In fact, it does seem to be the only means open to them. The folks here in the marketplace know about the disease, obviously. "Obviously," answers Doc. As if their fears get the better of them, they could riot at any time. If their fears get the better of them, they could riot at any time. Absolutely. We can just manage to keep the peace by patrolling the streets like this. I know what you mean. If we were to succumb to the disease, their lives would be put all the more at risk. If we can't dose every subject in the kingdom, all we can do is think about how best to keep the harm of the impact of the disease to an absolute minimum. I couldn't have said it better myself, King. You get a perfect score. Good job." His words of praise carry obvious barbs. Sensing their presence, Kane falls silent. Underlying Doc's sharp comment is not only the pain of biting sarcasm, but the sorrow of helplessness. Two children, a boy and a younger girl, run past the man, laughing, dressed in rags. They have probably come from the slum behind the market to gather scraps of vegetables, little better than garbage. Doc points to their receding forms and says, "I'd like to ask you a question, Kay." "All right. Are those kids subjects indispensable to the nation?" Kane has no answer for him because he knows the right answer all too well. He can only lapse into silence. Responding to Kane's silence with a bitter smile, Doc goes on. "According to your logic, Kane, if those kids fall sick and die, there's no way around it. Or at least Capitol Police like us have a greater right to the medicine than those kids do. Am I right, Kane? Isn't that what you're saying?" Kane could hardly declare that he was wrong. Responding again to Kane's silence, Doc says, "Now don't misunderstand me, I'm not attacking you. It's just that everybody is indispensable to somebody, even those kids. They may be just a nuisance to the state, poor beggars, but to their parents, they are indispensable lives that must be protected at all costs. Am I wrong?" What a kind-hearted fellow, Kane thinks. Maybe too kind, to a degree that would prove fatal for a soldier. From the direction of the castle comes the sound of the great bell, an emergency assembly signal to the soldiers patrolling the streets. The medicine seems to have arrived for them. "Let's head back," Doc pipes up, apparently emerging from his gloom. "Let's be good boys and take the miraculous medicine that's going to save our lives and protect the kingdom." The sorrow-filled thorns sprouting from his words pierce Kane through the heart. It is the following day when Doc tells Kane of his plan to desert. "I'm only telling this to you, Kane," he says when they are patrolling the marketplace again. "I know the punishment for desertion is harsh. I'm not sure I can make it all the way, and if I'm caught, I know I'll be court-martialed and executed." He has resigned himself to that possibility, he says, which is why he wants to make sure that Kane knows the purpose of his desertion. "I'm not betraying the country or the army. I just have to deliver this." In his open palm lies the tablet that he was issued the day before. "You didn't take it?" Kane asks, shocked. "No, I fooled them," he chuckles, immediately turning serious again and closing his open hand. You're going to deliver this tablet? Uh-huh. Doc holds out his hand now, pointing toward the mountains south of the capital. At the foot of those mountains is the village where I was born. My wife and son are there. He's just 5 years old and he's been sickly since the day he was born. If he gets the disease, it's all over for him. So you're going to give him the medicine. Do you think it's wrong of me to do that? This is going to suck. Transfixed by Doc's stare, Kame is at a loss for words. Suddenly the gentle Doc's eyes betray a murderous gleam. I may be a soldier dedicated to protecting the nation, but before that, I am the father of a son, and before that, I am a human being. I don't give a damn about the kingdom's ranking of lives according to whether or not they are indispensable. I want to save the life of one human being who is indispensable to me. Doc's eyes take on added strength. They are bloodshot now, clear proof of his resolve. If I leave now, I can be back in the barracks by roll call tomorrow morning. I'll leave home as soon as I give him the medicine, so I'm asking you to do me this one favor. Don't cause any commotion until then. No, of course not, but I'm not sure I can make it, but I am sure my boy will die if I just stay here. He'll pull through if he has the medicine. If there's even the slightest possibility of that, I have no choice. I have to take a chance. They'll kill you if they catch you. I don't care. I can die with pride knowing I did it to save the life of the one person most important to me. What if you get sick? All I can do is live it up to fate. Doc smiles. Human beings can't do anything about fate. But I do want to do everything I can as a human being. This is why Doc has revealed his plans to Kane. One more thing, Kane. If they kill me, or if I get sick and die, I hope I can depend on you to visit my village sometime and tell my wife and son what happened. Make sure they know that I didn't desert because I got fed up with the army. I did it to save my son's life, which is something that is way more important to me than army rules and even more important than my own life. You will be satisfied as long as that message gets through, he says with a smile. Kame has no way to reply to this. Not that Kame fully accepts everything Doc has said to him. He is convinced not so much by the man's reasoning, but he is overwhelmed by something that transcends the reasoning, by the power of life, by the strength and depth of Doc's desire to save a life, precisely because it is something that will eventually be cut off by death. I'm going to make a run for it while we're patrolling the marketplace. I'm asking you to look the other way. Tell them I disappeared when you took your eyes off me for a split second. Kane can do nothing but accept Doc's plea in silence. He sees that deep in the hearts of those who love finite life is a place that cannot be entered by those who have been burdened irrevocably with life everlasting. The two men reach the far end of the marketplace. All right then. Sorry to put you through this, Doc says. He turns towards the exit and is about to plunge into the crowd when it happens. A child comes bounding out of the alleyway. It is the same shabbily dressed girl from the slums who ran past the man yesterday, laughing. Today she is alone and crying her head off. She looks around with wild eyes, and when she spots Kame and Doc in uniform, she comes running to them, shouting, "Help! Help!" "What's the matter?" Doc asks. She takes his hand and leads him to the alleyways, as if to prevent the surrounding people from hearing what she is about to tell him. "It's my brother," she blurts out. "He's sick. He's got a high fever and he's shaking all over. We've got to do something, or he's going to die." Oh no. Fuck. Kame and Doc look at each other. How about your parents? Don't you have a father or mother to take care of him? Kame asks. What parents? The girl retorts tearfully. They both died a long time ago. There's just me and my big brother. Oh, please help him, please. But I was just, Doc mutters, fidgeting and ready to run, but he looks at Kane with pleading eyes. Kane kneels down and looks at the girl straight in the eye. When did this fever start? He asks. Just a few minutes ago, she says. We were leaving to pick up vegetable scraps and he fell down. Only a little time has passed since the disease struck. He could still be saved by the medicine. But of course there is no medicine for slum children. Judging from the girl's wasted frame, her brother must also be eating poorly. The disease will almost surely ravage his malnourished body and snatch his life in a matter of hours. The girl will not come down with the disease, of course, but even if it cannot attack her directly, once she has lost the only member of her family and has no one to take care of her, the tiny thing is bound to trace the same fatal path as her parents and brothers sooner or later. Please, help my brother, please. She clings to Kame and Doc, huge tears streaming down her cheeks. Kame gives her a slight, silent nod. He rises slowly and reaches for a small leather pouch dangling from his sword hilt. Before he can lay hold of it, he hears Doc saying to the little girl, Don't worry. Doc is holding out his hand to her, smiling gently. In the palm of his hand is a tablet. Give this to your brother, Doc says. There's still time to save him. The girl gives him a puzzled look and hesitates until he urges her. Hurry! Do it now! She reaches for it uncertainly and takes it in hand with great care. Hurry home, now! Doc says with a smile for her. The girl dashes off. Thank you, thank you, thank you! Her shrill, tearful voice rings out as she disappears into the hallway. I'm glad it worked out like this, Kame, Doc says with a shrug and a faint smile. So now I won't be branded a deserter, and I won't have to give you anything to worry about. No, this is a good thing. He sounds as if he is trying to convince himself. He even nods deeply in agreement. Surely he cannot have done this without regrets, especially if his son at home should take sick and die. His voice is calm, however, as he says, I couldn't help it. When I saw that little girl crying like that, I know my son would understand. He gives himself another deep nod. Still, Doc. Never mind, don't say a thing. Doc cuts him off and squints towards the alleyway the girl ran down. There's absolutely no rank order to lives. The only thing that matters is to save a life you see with your own two eyes. I know what you mean, says Kane. Just because I saved one slum kid's life, there's no guarantee he'll grow up to be a credit to the nation. Maybe all I succeeded in doing was prolonging the life of yet another drag on the state. Maybe after I get back to the barracks, I'll start thinking of other people I should have saved instead of him. On the other hand, Kane, he says, interrupting himself and turning to look at Kane as he considers yet another possibility. On the other hand, I look at it this way too. Maybe it's just a matter of innate human instinct to want to save the life before your eyes. Maybe we learn those other kinds of ranking later, for the nation, or for the people, or even for my son. I may have failed as a soldier or as a father, but I think I did the right thing as a human being. Doc stops himself there and starts walking without waiting for Kane to reply. He might be trying to hide his embarrassment at his own tortured reasoning. Seeing this, Kane produces a laugh and calls out to Doc, as casually as if he were suggesting they go to the tavern for drinks. Hey Doc. Uh-huh? You forgot this. Now Kane finishes what he interrupted before, reaching for the leather pouch tied to his sword hilt. From it he takes a small pill. What? You mean I didn't take it? Incapable of losing his life to a disease, Kame had no use for the medicine to begin with. Of course, he has no intention of telling Doc about that. Even if he were trying to tell him that he has lived 1,000 years, it is not likely that Doc would take him seriously. You have a family, Doc. Lives you'd give anything to protect. That is a great thing. Now Kane holds out a hand with a tablet in it the way Doc did earlier to the girl. I envy you, he says with a smile. Wait, Kane, wait, I mean you... I don't have a family, he says, greasing the depth of his smile, responding to Kane's smile with its mixture of loneliness and warmth. Doc silently accepts the tablet. Well now, would you look at that beautiful blue sky, says Kane. I think I'll just stand here a while, looking up at it, not thinking about anything at all. This might be a good time for you to run home to your son. Kane does as he says, looking up at the sky. Before long he hears the sounds of footsteps running across the stone pavement. Make sure you come back alive, Doc, Kane mutters. Kane strolls along, looking up at the blue sky until he disappears into the marketplace crowd. The end. This went so much better than I expected to. Much better. Well, because I thought we were going to get a really sad one here. Well, I like this one a lot. I'm glad we did this. We didn't skip these dreams. They're so well made. I would read them anyway, but I'm glad I'm still sharing them with you. I thought for sure a bunch of people were going to die. It was a very happy ending, very hopeful. Not at all like we were used to here. My glasses are dirty as fuck. I need to clean them up. Just give me a minute. I'll be right back. Is the game music turned on? Have you got music during the thing? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. My bad. How are you doing, Lord Anthony? Welcome back. Should use water and microfiber. I just used the microfiber. Oh, you were lurking for the entire story. I hope you liked it. Lurking is what I do. I really like this one. It was very hopeful. It's very different from what we're used to. You're not getting a superior clean that way, water microfiber. You know I'm very basic. I don't use shields. I don't use water to clean the glasses. I just did it like next. Oh, by the way, I got a new stream thing. I can't use it yet because the cable is not long enough. But ta-da! I got a microphone. So this will be implemented as soon as I get a bigger cable for it. And then we'll start using a real audio microphone with the stream instead of the webcam microphone. This will slowly be less of a garbage truck on fire. Slowly, very slowly. It's a work in progress. Should always be a work in progress. Growing pro. I want to, yes. Next order of business is getting a green screen behind me. I just don't know if I should keep the couch. I should make an emote with the couch, shouldn't I? For FFZ. I don't know if you guys are interested in even installing it. But we talked about it and you guys told me it might be a good idea, so I kind of did everything already. I was watching other streams and doing it, choosing, like, going through a big emote list. I can make my own, but that takes longer. But I can take a picture of the couch and make an emote of the couch for when I take a break. Couch gaming. There's probably a couch gaming channel. And I am getting a little fancy. I try. It was a very cheap microphone, to be honest. It cost like £10, so not fancy at all. Couch gaming channel. I'm sure there is a couch gaming channel, even if it has something called couch gaming. Couch gaming is a great name. I'm sure there is a couch gaming somewhere. Anyway, let's go for Stones of Heaven. See what this one is all about. The waterfall lies deep in the forest, more than a day's travel from the nearest village. It is said to be a holy place. In search of the divine amid the towering peaks, pilgrims stand beneath the plunging falls in their final aesthetic practice. The water of the falls is freezing cold. All it takes is a momentary lapse of concentration, and the person is hammered down by the rushing water. The pilgrims call this waterfall the Stones of Heaven. Heaven is testing their mental and physical strength, they say, by hurling an endless stream of stones down upon them in the form of the powerful waterfall. It's being squatted if it isn't there. It's true. I will look it up later. And the stones have a mysterious power, a former pilgrim says to Cain with a pained smile. He himself failed in his final austerity, he adds. Different stones of heaven fall on each person. It's as if they can see into your heart. What do you mean? He asks. The burdens you bore and the dreams you dreamed in the secular world appear to you one after another. In his own case, he says, what came to him first were the voices of women. The water plunging down into the basin of the falls began to sound like women's voices. Sweet voices whispering in my ear, voices sobbing. voices moaning in a lover's embrace, an incredible variety. And for better or worse, I knew every single one of them. Some I was thrilled to hear again, while others I hated remembering. It's a cold waterfall, of course it has cold exes. Meaning you've gotten yourself into a lot of trouble involving women. I have indeed. Not to boast or anything, but that was one battlefield I knew better than anybody. I survived, but I made a lot of women cry, and there were a lot of them I loved. My whole purpose in undertaking the austerities was to put that life behind me. But the stones of heaven know what they're doing. In the final test, they go after your greatest weakness. If you waver the slightest bit, you've had it. The water slams you down and your austerities are over. The man feeds a stick of kindling into a campfire. And I'm not the only one, he continues. One fellow heard a voice of the mother he hadn't seen since he was a little boy. Another heard the voice of his dead child. Is it always voices? I wish it were. If you hold up through the voices, the waterfall's mist starts changing into shapes of people. You might see somebody who you hated so much in the secular world that you wanted to kill him. Or it might be some loan shark you had to go into hiding to get away from. One little flinch and you're done for. This particular austerity can be performed only once. There are no second chances. Someone who has persevered for a whole day and night, but who fails in the end, has no choice but to return to the secular world in defeat, as this man did. Not that it was easy for me to get on my feet again once I was back there either. The man chuckles and calls out to a young pilgrim, or more precisely to a young man who was a pilgrim until a few moments ago, but who has just now dragged himself up to the lip of the basin in utter dejection. Hey, young fellow, the campfire's over here. I've got liquor to warm up your insides and some fresh grilled meat. Get a little of that in your stomach, and you'll have the strength to make it down to the village. The man now makes his living as a master of the tea house by the waterfall. Of course, pilgrims undergoing austerities carry no money with them, but the man is not expecting to become rich doing this work. For body is chilled by long hours of pounding under the waterfall, he provides a warming fire, food and drink, and sometimes even money to tide them over when they first go down to the village. Payment can be made at any time. The man can bring in the money after they have started to take in earnings again from jobs they find in the secular world. He sets no date for repayment. He takes no IOUs. He says he's fine with that. What's that? What's an IOU? Is that IOU, like I owe you money? I never heard that. Never saw that before. Aren't there some who don't pay at all? Kane asks. Of course there are, the man says, matter-of-factly. I owe you. So it's like an expression. Okay. 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 It's an expression I never heard. Strange. Of course there are, the man says matter-of-factly. But I think of my running this tea house as another kind of discipline for myself. Another kind of discipline? That's right. The stones of heaven will accept only the strongest pilgrims, the ones unperturbed by anything. The role I want to play is to accept the ones who were broken by the stones of heaven, the weak human beings. I want to go on accepting the weakest of the weak, the kind who do not only succumb to the stones in heaven, but who even fail to pay for their food and drink afterwards. That is your kind of discipline? Exactly. It makes for a hard living, that's for sure. I thought I was prepared to deal with cheats and weaklings, but there are a lot more people of those than I ever bargained for, he declares with a heavy heart. But then he quickly turns serious and asks, to tell you the truth, I think of this less as a form of discipline than as a way to get even. Get even? With whom? With those gods or whatever they are that keep hurling down their stones of heaven. Human beings are weak, shockingly so, in the eyes of a god, but I think, and this is not just because of what happened to me, that being weak is the best kind about human beings, the best thing about human beings. Weakness can make us cunning, but it can also make us kind. Weakness can torment us, but it can just as easily be our salvation. Don't you see? If the gods are hurling down their stones of heaven just to make people aware of their own weakness, just to make us savor our own powerlessness, then I'd just as soon drop my trousers and leave them. I'll slap my bare butt and say to them, I am not like you. I'm not going to punish human beings for being weak. I accept them for what they are, weakness and all. The man feeds a new piece of kindling to the fire and says with a shy shrug, I guess I got carried away. Kim smiles and shakes his head as if to say, not at all. Tell me though, the man goes on. I see you're a traveler, but you don't seem to be a pilgrim. You're right, I'm not, Kim says. I was trying to cross over the pass and took the wrong road. Well then, as long as you're here, why not give the stones of heaven a try? It'll be something to talk about. No thanks, Kim says, smiling. What's the matter? Afraid they're going to show you whatever it is that shakes you up? The man smiles and nods. I can't say I blame you, though. The man is mistaken about Cain. He is not the least bit afraid of such a thing. What scares him is the opposite prospect, that of not being shaken up, of encountering in himself a person unmoved by anything at all. Anyway, it would be suicide to jump into the waterfall without preparation. How's that? It's freezing cold for one thing. There's even colder water bubbling up from a spring in the basin. Even the most well-conditioned person has to be careful and take time to accustom himself to the low temperature. If you go in all at once, it can stop your heart. The man jerks his chin in the direction of the falls as if to say, look at them. Two new pilgrims are preparing themselves for the challenge of the stones of heaven. The men appear to be brothers. The older one kneels at the edge of the basin, splashing himself and massaging the cold water into his skin from foot to heart level. The younger brother is too impatient for that. He wants to jump right under the falls. The elder brother cautions him and takes all the time he needs to accustom himself to the water's coldness. He exudes the quiet power of one who has withstood the most rigorous training. The tea house owner says to Kim, smiling. We're in for a rare privilege. I think we're about to see the first successful attempt in a long while. You can tell? Kim asks. You can if you've spent as much time here as I have. The winners and losers are decided before the men ever step under the falls. Having completed his meticulous preparations, the elder brother enters the basin. Even then, the steps he takes are slow and cautious. The younger brother follows him in, kicking up spray with every step. The younger one is hopeless, says the man with a sigh, adding another stick of kindling to the fire. I'd better get the liquor ready now, he mutters to himself. The brothers stand side by side beneath the pounding waterfall, the stones of heaven raining down upon them. As the man predicted, the elder brother, utterly calm, stands up to the onslaught of images sent by the stones of heaven. Also, as the man predicted, the younger brother yields to the stones of heaven and is beaten down into the basin of the waterfall. But then something happens that goes far beyond what the man predicted. Writhing in agony, the younger brother bobs helplessly in the basin, unable to raise himself. He is drowning. He tears at his own chest. His heart is failing. He was not fully prepared to enter the icy water. "Help me, brother, please!" But the elder brother doesn't move. He remains under the waterfall in total concentration. "Hey, what are you doing there? Hurry up and help him!" the man yells, but the elder brother's expression remains unchanged. He never flinches. "He's drowning. You can't just leave him like that. He will die." The elder brother never moves. He grits his teeth, keeps his eyes clamped shut, and shows no sign of moving out from under the waterfall, as if to declare, "This is it. This is the final test of the stones of heaven." The man screams at him, "You idiot!" and dives into the rolling basin in a rash effort to help the younger brother. For the moment, his untrained body hits the frigid water. The shock of it seizes his heart. Still, he reaches out toward the drowning brother, who is sinking beneath the surface. A great shudder goes through him, and with an enormous groan, he takes hold of the young man's wrist and pulls his limp body toward him. He tries to return to the shore, but his strength gives out, and he falls back into the water. Next, it is Cain's turn to dive into the basin beneath the falls. He takes hold of the two unconscious men and drags them towards the shore. The stones of heaven pour down on Cain, and he is assaulted by one vision after another. The battlefields, scenes from his wanderings, shooting stars, the climbing and sinking sun, raging winds, and countless deaths of those he has come to know on the road of his all too long life. "It will do you no good," he silently declares to the gods, hurling the stones of heaven at him. "My heart remains unmoved. I have lived through a reality far crueler than any phantom you can show me." Whether or not his life is a sign of his strength, he does not know. He will not boast of it, nor will he tell the tale to others. He has, however, lived it. That much is certain. He has lived it through the years. Cain climbs onto the shore and lays the limp bodies of the tea house master and the younger brother beside the fire. As he warms himself, he thinks, "The gods who hurl the stones of heaven are inferior gods. If they could truly see into everything, they would never have been foolish enough to show Cain scenes from his past. For what would disturb him most of all would be the unwelcome sight of moments from his own limitless future. And if they were to ask him one simple question, 'For what purpose were you born?' his knees would buckle in an instant." The first to regain consciousness is the young pilgrim. The tea house master's condition is critical. Cain's attempt to warm him and massage his clenched heart have little effect. "Pull yourself together now. Look, we've got a fire here, the fire you built. Let it warm you." Cain shouts into his ear until the man finally manages to force his eyes open a crack and move his purple lips. Is he all right?" "Sure, he's fine. Don't worry." "Oh, good. Good. Pull yourself together, man. Tell me, though, is strength the same as coldness?" "Never mind, stop talking. As if that is true. If strength is coldness, I don't want any part of it." The man gives Cain a faint smile and closes his eyes. He will never open them again. Human beings are weak and fragile. All it takes for a person to die is for a fist-sized organ to stop beating. Human kindness, on the other hand, may derive from everyone's profound awareness of the fragility of life. Facing the tea-house master's lifeless corpse, the younger brother hangs his head and cries. This weak man, defeated by the stones of heaven, sheds heartfelt tears for the man who saved his life. His strong elder brother, meanwhile, is still being pounded by the waterfall, unfazed by the stones of heaven. Surely his strength will be recognized by the gods, and he will bring his aesthetic training to perfect completion. Still, Cain finds the tear-stained face of the younger brother beautiful in a way the stronger elder brothers can never be, and he wishes that he himself could be moved like the younger man. There was an unmatched nobility in the last smile of the tea-house master who gave up his life to save that of a complete stranger. Cain wishes that he too could experience such feelings. And what of my own face? Living through 1,000 years of life is not strength. Yet, burdened with a life he cannot lose, will Cain ever be able to change weakness into kindness? This he cannot tell. He can only live unknowing. He can only walk on. He can only continue his journey. Cain looks at his reflection in the basin of the waterfall. On the water's heaving surface, he sees the trembling face of a lonely wanderer. The end. Well, we had to get a death, didn't we? What? This one was very good too. You see, but I still... I guess the whole point of the ending kind of unmakes all of this. Because they're, after all, they're happy to live forever. Like for many other millennia. Which is confusing. People in this world are wimps. The water's so cold that nobody can bear it. That is perfectly believable here too, isn't it? Especially for the guy who died, because he was in a tent with fire. He was kindling the fire all the time. So I think it makes sense. I got confused here. I skipped one. The village closest to heaven. The ranking of lives we did was the first one we did, and we did the stones of heaven after. I don't know how I skipped that. Yeah, but there are a bunch of people that do that for fun here. It's called polar bear plunge. Yeah, maybe some of them die. I don't know. Depends on how cold it actually is. If it's minus 40 degrees or something, fuck all that. Minus 40 Celsius, I have no idea what the Fahrenheit scale is. I know there are a lot of crazies. Like in the New Year, some people have a tradition of like going to the beach and diving in. I always found that to be Very crazy. If it's minus 40 degrees, it's ice. Well, if it's like a waterfall, a river, maybe it doesn't actually freeze over, but it would freeze if it was a lake. You can always minus 40 Fahrenheit is the same as minus 40 Celsius. Really? Is that where they converge? They should converge in zero. That is weird. Okay. Let's do the village closest to heaven then. I only know the Highland closest to heaven from Final Fantasy VIII. A good place to level up. So much white. In this village ringed by jagged mountains, the women give birth to many children. 5 or 6 is not uncommon. Just the other day, the wife of the village headman gave birth to her 10th child. And if it were extremely salty, it will get to about 0 degrees Fahrenheit and it will freeze. Okay. So no chance of a waterfall still not frozen killing a man. And why do you think that is? The young fellow asks the traveler, looking down at the snow-blanketed village. Kane cocks his head in search of an answer. Meanwhile, the young man takes something like a piece of crystal candy from a small leather pouch. He pops it into his mouth and says with a laugh, "Because they die right away." The children? Uh-huh. Hardly anybody grows up to be an adult. Most kids die after 5 or 6 short summers. Look at the village headman's wife. She's lost 7 kids already. There's a point in which the salt no longer dissolves the water. Moving water is still above freezing on average. The only way that pure water would keep at a liquid state is if the pressure were different, as in atmospheric pressure. It was atop of a mountain, so I don't know. That should make it freeze faster, shouldn't it? Whether from a genetic problem or a disease endemic to the area, the people of this village have always lived short lives, he says. From way, way back. Now that you mention it, says Kate, I haven't seen any old people here. See what I mean? A few decades ago, I'm told that the one person lived to be 50, but people say that's the oldest anyone ever got in the whole history of the village. This is why we give birth to lots of kids. Give birth to a lot and lose a lot. If just one of them lives into adulthood, though the family line is safe, then the village history continues. You see my point? These people need to move. Oh, it's so okay. It's negligible. The young man is 16, as is his wife. Their first child is due to be born any day now. Literally today or tomorrow. The young man crunches down on the candy in his mouth. Let's get going, he says. And around his wrists he winds the ropes he uses to pull the sled. He hasn't loaded the sled yet, but dragging it up the steep, snow-covered road is hard work. This, he says, is why the pay is so good. Only a few days earlier, he lost his good friend and fellow worker, who had been 3 years his senior. When Kame happened along, the young man asked him if he would help by pushing the sled from behind until they cleared the pass. Kame agreed, and they became an instant team. 16 and already having a kid that's young. I guess they have to if they if they die that young. Why don't they move? I'm guessing this village is really no good. Kim circles around to the back of the sled and asks, "You don't have any animals to pull the sled?" "Afraid not," says the young man. "I know it's strange, but how are horses and cattle and donkeys all that young? You can spend a lot of money at the town market buying an animal, and it will keel over before it's done a lick of work. Finally, the best way is for us humans to plow the fields and pull the sleds ourselves." The arms with which the young man himself is pulling his sled are massive, and he forges through the rose snowy cover with powerful steps. His fellow worker was stronger still, he says. "He taught me how to pull the sled, how to set rabbit traps, how to build a fire, all the skills I need to live, with all the love he would give to a kid brother. Before I knew it, he was gone." Hey, Miss Nadi, thank you for the host. And welcome. Welcome to our reading session. "People here always die suddenly," he says. "They can be perfectly healthy one minute and drop dead the next. No time for suffering, just like that. No time to call a doctor. Even if a doctor comes, there's nothing he can do." "Did your friend die that way?" "Uh-huh. He was shoveling the snow that piled up overnight, clearing the road, when he dropped dead. By the time we ran over to help him, he was gone. That's how it always is. Always. That's how they die. Grown-ups, kids, everyone. And you, too, then. I guess so. Nobody knows when the moment is coming. It might be decades from now, or it could be tomorrow." After this cool pronouncement, the young man turns to look at Kame, and pointing to his own chest, says with a smile, or maybe even now. The smile is genuine, without a hint of despair or bitterness towards the cruelty of his fate. "Aren't you afraid to die?" Kame starts to ask him, but stops himself. It's a stupid question, he decides, and one that he is not qualified to ask. Where could a man, burdened with eternal life, find appropriate words to speak to a man burdened with the threat of sudden death? Time and the young man keep dragging the sled up the steep mountain path. Their destination is the lake beyond the pass. The young man's job calls for him to cut ice from the surface of the frozen lake and transport it back to the village. We in the village call the lake the spring of life. If you trace the source of the water that bubbles out of the ground here and there in the village, you always wind up at the spring of life. King nods silently. The ice from the spring of life takes forever to melt. That's why, look, you can even do this. Again, the young man takes a piece of the crystal candy, or rather ice, from his leather pouch and puts it in his mouth. It gives you energy. It's indispensable when doing hard work, or for pregnant women or infants. Just put a piece in your mouth and it gives you instant strength. The young man offers a piece to Kame, who nods again in silence. "We're really not supposed to give any to outsiders, but you're special, because I'm putting you to work. If I give it to you, though, I want you to help me load the ice on the sled. I can handle it myself on the way back." Kame silently accepts the ice from the young man, who assures him it tastes good too, and watches him smiling. Kame averts his gaze somewhat and puts the piece in his mouth. The ice should be nothing but frozen water, but it has a mild sweetness. Just as Kame expected, he spits it out when the young man is not looking. Poison. I know that taste, thinks Kame. This was predictable, wasn't it? The village people are used to this taste, so they think nothing of it. Without a doubt, though, there is poison in the ice. The long flow of time smooths over the wounds inflicted by history. The permanently snow-capped peaks make people forget the existence of the wide world on the other side. The young man calls this lake the spring of life, but those who lived far beyond the mountains, at the source of the river that feeds the lake, used to know it as the pit of death. Long ago, several hundred years ago, the entire area around the river's source was polluted with the poisonous metallic outflow from a mine. The river was filled with dead fish floating belly up, and the poisonous gas that rose like a mist from the ground killed both the earth-bound animals and the birds in the sky. The forests withered, and the lively town that had grown up with the development of the mine became a deserted ruin. These people need to learn history. Nature took many years to recover, but the forests eventually turned green again, which attracted small animals and eventually the larger animals that hunted them. People, however, never came back, and there was no one left to hand down the story of the tragedy that occurred at the river's source deep in the mountains. Okay. Sorry about that. The only one who knows everything that happened is Cain, the man who has lived 1,000 years. All these stories, he has always lived 1,000 years. The young man stands by the frozen lake and takes a nice, satisfying stretch. As soon as he called it the Lake of Life or whatever, I thought, maybe that's the cause. You know, he says to the traveler, I sometimes think this village just might be the closest one to heaven in the whole world. Perhaps it's because we are too close to heaven that we're all summoned by the gods early on. Don't you think that might be true? Kim says nothing in response to this. Kim is a bad guy if he doesn't tell them. Over many years, this lake has accumulated the metallic poison that flowed into it from upstream. And over many years, the poison that infiltrated the soil has mingled with the groundwater, bubbling up in the spring water with which the villagers slake their thirst. No one knows the exact chemical makeup of the poison, but at least it does not cause the villagers to suffer until, at the last moment of their lives, the accumulated poison suddenly takes its toll. This may be one of its fortunate aspect. It's one fortunate aspect. Fuck, I can't read. On the other hand, this might simply make the misfortune it brings all the more conspicuous. Why the heck would they not give it to outsiders? Maybe outsiders don't go there. Still, the young man says as he saws off a piece of ice by the shore, I do hope that the children my wife and I have will be able to live longer lives. Say, if we have 5, at least one of them will live long enough to grow up and have kids. That way, for me, it would be like finding some meaning in having been born into this world. It was the same with my father and my mother and my grandparents. They all had lots of kids and mourned the loss of lots of kids, but managed to raise 1 or 2 to adulthood before they died. That's what gives our life meaning. He wipes the sweat from his brow and puts another piece of ice candy in his mouth. If I were to tell him everything I know, thinks Kate, if I were to tell him everything that has been buried in the darkness of history, and if he were to tell the other villagers, The tragedy might not have been repeated, have to be repeated. The young man says, when a baby is born here, they ring the village bell. Also when someone dies, the same for both. Birth and death are like two sides of the same coin. So there's no sadness when someone dies. Everybody sees them off with a smile and a wish. You go ahead of us to heaven and save a good spot there for us. Do you understand that sentiment? I do, says Cain. I do. That's how we've always done it, welcoming lots of new lives to the village and sending lots of lives off to heaven. I've never been much of a student, so I don't know exactly how to put this, but I kind of think that might be the village closest to heaven. Is a place, maybe the village closest to heaven, is a place where life and death are right next door to each other. The young man gives Cain an embarrassed smile at the sound of his own words. Maybe it's because I'm about to have a kid of my own that I'm starting to think about these complicated things. No, that's fine. I see exactly what you mean, says Cain. The moment the words leave his mouth, a bell sounds from the foot of the hill. Several long, slow rings. That's it, exclaims the young man. My child has been born. He dips his head and says again, as if savoring the sound of his own words, my child. A church bell ringer. He's one of your ancestors. That's true. He's probably not going to tell him about the ice, though. But that is a bad move, man. While the bell is rung, likewise for births and deaths, the young man says, the sound in each case is subtly different. When a young villager learns to tell the two apart, he or she is considered to be an adult. I hope this one lives a long time, the young man says, choking with the flood of emotions that show on his face, but then he goes on, as if to negate his own hopes for the future. Either way, whether it lives a long time or not, my child has now been born into this world. That's all that matters. I'm so happy, so happy. This is weird. Eyes full of tears, he turns a beatific smile on Cain, and then, still smiling, he collapses where he stands. I guess he's choking from the poison, yes. Not from the emotions, clearly. Cain lays the young man's corpse on the sled. It's already a corpse, shit. On the sled and returns to the village. As the young man said, the villagers accept his death with the same smiles they had for the birth of his baby. Death is not a time for sorrow. It simply marks whether one has been called to heaven, earlier or later. The young man's wife takes an ice candy from the leather pouch he has left behind and places it gently into the baby's mouth. I want you to grow up to be strong and healthy, she says. Daddy is saving a wonderful place for you up in heaven. But go there slowly, slowly, and until you go to heaven, I want you to grow up here in the village till you're nice and big. Her words have the gentle tone of a lullaby. People need to move. These people need to move. Cain says nothing. If he is to stand unflinchingly for what is right, his silence may be a crime, but burdened with eternal life, Cain knows how suspect the right can be. Throughout history, people have fought and wounded and killed each other in the name of what they declare to be right. By comparison, the look on the dead young man's face is tranquility itself. The village closest to heaven is filled with happiness indeed. The baby starts to cry. It's loud wailing, like a celebration of the beginning of its own life, however short that life is likely to be. Cain leaves the village with a smile on his face. The village bell begins to peal. reverberating with utter clarity through the distant mountains, as if to bestow a blessing on the young man who lived his life to the fullest, with neither resentment nor regret. And when this too long life of mine draws to a close, Cain thinks, I'd like to be sent off with the sound of bells like this, if possible. Because he knows that day will never come, Cain walks on, never stopping, never looking back. His long journey is far from over. The end. These people need water quality control. They need some magical water treatment plants. They need to move. These people need to move. Come on. Not one person in this whole town has moved and wondered, hey, I moved and lived to be 80. No, he never told them. Fuck. That is cold. Oh, by the way, I realized why Sammy the Storyteller is not on my guide, because it was a DLC memory as well, but I didn't know that. It was one I already had. There are 2 paid DLCs for this game that I had, and I didn't have the one that was gifted to me by Heavenly Striker, and I only knew that one had a... I knew that one had a DLC memory, but that one is another DLC one too. How did not one of them realize it was poison? No idea. That was weird. Makes sense, it was DLC. It's weird because like that, the pre-order DLC Heavenly Striker gifted, that one, that DLC's memory was accounted for in the guide, so that's why it was weird that the one from the other DLC was not. Guess the guide was made before the other DLC came out. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 left. It's taking like half an hour each. I mean, seriously, not one of them was like, no thanks, I don't like the taste, and that person just miraculously lived to surprisingly old age. I guess they were fed with it. They were fed with it from their first day. Like, she was feeding it to the baby on the actual hour the baby was born in. So you don't even get to choose. I don't even know how you get old enough to be a parent. That was weird. Anyway, signpost. I'll be gone soon, Henri says, so it makes no difference. A life like this. She smiles with some effort, puts on a grey tablet on her tongue, and swallows it. Use or possession of this drug by ordinary people is prohibited by law and strictly controlled. The person taking it feels as if every bone in his or her body is melting. All the anxieties and cares of life vanish as if the individual wanders into the space between languor and pleasure. Why don't you take one too? Harry pulls another tablet from her leather pouch, and holds it out to Kane, who is standing by her bed. You probably shouldn't be feeding newborn babies ice. It's cold water. They assumed it was okay. Coward, she says with a grim smile when he shakes his head in silence. And then she places the second tablet on her tongue. How many pills does that make today? Kim asks. No, I forget. With empty eyes, Henri stares into space and sighs. This is an addiction, a serious one. How do you feel? He asks. Not bad, she says. Very happy. She gives him a smile. It is deeper and softer than her earlier smile. Though maybe too deep and too soft, it appears to be a smile of ultimate bliss. But for that very reason, it also has a frightening quality that sends chills up his spine. The drug is called Signpost. This is not its formal designation, of course. People started calling it as a secret code to avoid persecution, and the term caught on. Signpost is, however, the single most appropriate name for this drug. Each pill takes the user one step further down the road, and when withdrawal symptoms strike, the person rushes to take the next pill, thereby advancing yet another step. Further and further and further. The road marked by this signpost is a soothing one, entirely free of pain or suffering. At the end of the road, however, there waits only death. The use and possession of signposts is so strictly prohibited because it is seen as an invitation to gradual suicide. How many more pills, I wonder? Henri mutters, stretching her emaciated body full length on the bed. It is a question that Kane cannot answer. He knows only that she is nearing the end of her signpost journey. It is for this that Kane has been called to this hospital, which is a facility for people on the verge of death. Signpost is a really stupid name for an illegal drug, just saying. I guess it's a very inconspicuous name until it catches on, right? Like if I ask you for chair, hey, you have some chair to sell? Nudge, 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 know what I mean? That was a Monty Python reference. I don't know if you watch Monty Python. I have no regrets, Henri says. None at all. This way I can die pleasantly, quietly, like going to sleep. Her eyes are fixed on Kane, but they seem to register nothing. I'll be fine. She reaches into the leather pouch again. You probably shouldn't do that, Kane says. Your internet cut off right when I read your comment. I said it's a really inconspicuous name. Like if you call something it's not. That's nuts. Like say if you call a drug a chair, and I'm like you going next to you and say, hey, you have some chairs to sell? No, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? That's what I said. It's inconspicuous until it catches on. If it catches on and everybody says it, then it's not, because everyone knows what it stands for. Like, what's the, there is a drug that is called soap in Portuguese. I don't know if it's called soap everywhere else around the world. I'm trying to remember what drug it is. I think It's hashish. People call it soap in Portugal. I don't know why. You probably shouldn't do that, Kim says. Soap, really? God, these names need to get better. True, that is true. I think it is hashish. I might be wrong. I don't have a lot of drug knowledge, to be honest. I'm telling you, I'm fine, she says, laughing weakly, and placing a third signpost in her mouth. She closes her eyes. Her sunken eye sockets arbor dark shadows. Kim settles himself into the chair by her bed. He waits for her to say more, but she seems to have fallen asleep. Her breathing is calm, and a slight smile plays upon her sleeping face. The signpost seems to be working. Without the drug, hammer-like pains in her back and violent chills would prevent her from sleeping. Even worse than the physical suffering would be the fear of approaching death. I'm kind of like Nick and cocaine? No! Nick knows a lot about cocaine. And he thinks it's cool. I don't. I think drugs suck. More a girl than a woman, young Ari was struck by a mortal illness. At the end of her long battle with the disease, the doctor gave up all the hope of treating it and prescribed signposts for her instead. Ordinary people are not allowed to use the drug, but special permission has been given to patients for whom there is no hope of recovery in order to afford them a peaceful death and bring their lives to a quiet close. In other words, to enable them to die without having to deal with regret or despair. Before Cain began his work, a doctor explained the effects of the medicine to him, concluding with a smile. In other words, signpost forgives all the debts the person has built up towards life. Hari awakens. After she has confirmed Kim's presence at her bedside, she says, "You don't have to worry," and closes her eyes again, smiling. "I'm fine. I think I can go on. I can go just like this." So she knows there are other possibilities. In certain rare cases, signposts can have undesirable side effects. Sometimes at the very end, when the person is just beginning to slide into the abyss of death, there can be an attack of nightmares. The patient experiences a literal death agony. Even though signpost has provided such a wonderful tranquil departure on the person's final journey, every last bit of tranquility can be swept away on the cusp of death. Worse still, some patients conclude their hallucinatory episode with a frenzied physical outburst. They might have barely enough strength to breathe until, tormented by the nightmares, they lash out violently enough to break the bed or even strangle the caregiver in attendance. Such can be the mysteries of the human body, or more so, the human heart. The doctor said that signpost forgives all deaths. What kind of medical school do you go to so that I can avoid all doctors? It forgives all debts. Debts like financial debt or emotional debt. It's not death. Hey Rusty, how are you doing? Welcome back. Rusty, today we're just reading. We finished the game last night. You can say goodbye today. We're changing games tomorrow. I know you've wondered how long I've spent on this game, so it is actually time to say goodbye. This will be the last time I stream it. It's stupid. I think it's a cute way to put it, at least. This is why Cain is here. He is to stand vigil by Henri's deathbed against the remote possibility that she might be tormented by nightmares and go wild under the influence of signpost side effects. The doctor has supplied him with yet another drug. It is a poison that will kill the patient instantaneously. Cain has been instructed to administer it to Henri as soon as she begins to exhibit strange behavior. Change games now! No! There's still a bunch of dreams that I have to do. This will be a dream stream. Like, just reading. I understand if you're not okay with it. Just return tomorrow and everything will be just like before. It's I still want to share this. We've enjoyed these dreams really a lot, so it's not something I would want to skip unless everyone said they did not want me to do this at all. I might play Resident Evil later on. If you're going to say that, have a drug called the Taxman? I guess they didn't name it. Like, the signpost name is probably like the code name used to people who buy it illegally. Believe me, this is a humane measure, the doctor said, not murder by any means. The face of a patient who has suffered the drug's side effects is truly grotesque, not something that anyone could stand to look at. A person's death should never be that excruciating. This is a final kindness to give the person a quiet and peaceful ending. Cain was not entirely convinced by the doctor's rationale. Neither, however, was he able to bring himself to take issue with it. Now he can only hope that, led by her signpost, Henri will be able to pass her final moments in peace. Some part of her inner self might be paralyzed at the moment, and her empty eyes might never regain their former gleam, but if she is happy that way, it is nothing that anyone has the right to deny her. Shonen, save us. If I could, I would have David play Orange and narrate everything. Let's do Atofu Boyfriend. I can do Atofu Boyfriend if you want me to. Waking again, Henri reaches for another signpost but drops the leather pouch. Sorry, but would you pick it up for me? She asks Cain. She no longer has the strength even to hold the pouch. Her final moments are closing in. Cain lifts the pouch from the floor, but when she asks him to put a tablet in her mouth, he hesitates for a moment before complying. Her tongue is dry and rough as sandpaper. She really must be nearing the end. Having taken another signpost, Henri seems to be overtaken by that languorous feeling again. She moves the flesh of her cheeks in a way that has no meaning, releases a feeble sigh, and says, I was just dreaming. What about? About when I was little. Everybody was there. My father, my mother, my big brother and sister, all smiling. This is not a good sign. The drug might be having a bad effect. If the signpost is working properly, she should not be dreaming, especially about her family. The more lingering attachment or regret or sadness a person retains, the more likely he or she is to experience side effects. This is precisely why the family is never admitted to the patient's room. The final farewells are made before the administering of signposts, and only after everything is finished do they meet again. Everybody was in such a good mood. Cain wonders if he should give her another signpost. I'm sure when I was born that my parents never imagined I would die so young. A more seasoned caregiver would probably give her another pill without hesitation. Then Ari would fall into another peaceful sleep without any thoughts to disturb her, perhaps never to wake again. Kim, however, sets the leather pouch on a shelf and waits to hear what else she has to say. Ari herself does not require another signpost, but moves the sunken flesh of her cheeks